All right, so for this lesson, we're going to look over parallel and perpendicular slopes. Basically, like you should hopefully remember, parallel means that two lines will never cross. They'll keep going in forever and ever, never actually touching. Perpendicular means that two lines cross at a 90-degree angle, a right angle. Those concepts could be important. What we need to know is that the slope of these two lines is the same. Which, when we think about it, makes sense. Because if we had two lines that are going up by the same amount, like over one, up one, over one, up one, they're never going to catch up to each other because they're always going up at the same rate. So when you have parallel lines, the slope is the same. When you have 90-degree angles, it's actually this thing called negative reciprocal. Okay? So for example, if the slope of the first one was 2/5, the slope of a parallel line would be negative 5/2. So you flip the numbers upside down, and then you make it negative or positive. Another example would be if it was already negative 3/4, the perpendicular slope would be 4/3. The hardest examples, the ones that students make a lot of mistakes on, is if you had a slope of, let's say, 2. The perpendicular to this would be negative 1/2. You always have to imagine that if there's no denominator, it's as if the number was divided by 1. So when we find the negative reciprocal, we have to flip it and become negative 1/2. Perpendicular to this is not negative 2. That's just, it's going to intersect at like not a right angle, at a small angle. So the hard questions you might get with this is, for example, you get this shape and it says, is it a parallelogram? So the way we would tell if it's a parallelogram is if these two sides were parallel. So I'm going to find the slope of these two and then compare. So if we look at from point H to point J, I'm just going to use the grid and do my rise over run. I got 2/7. And then if I look over here between M and K, I got 2 and 7 as well. Those two are both going to have the same slope, so I know they're parallel. I'm going to compare the exact same thing with the other side as well. So it goes down, it goes over 2, it goes down 6. And then same thing over here, 2 and 6. So the slope of the top line was 2/7. The slope of the side line was negative 6/2, or negative 3. So is it a parallelogram? I can say yes, because these two sides had the exact same slope, and these two sides had the exact same slope. It says, is it a rectangle? In order to be a rectangle, it has to have right angles. That would mean that this line, HM, would be perpendicular to MK. If we look at their slopes, 2/7 and negative 6/2, it's close, but it's not actually perpendicular. So because it's not perpendicular, it's not a rectangle. I don't need to look at the lengths. I know right away it's not a rectangle. And that's it. Those are the tough kind of word problems for this one.